Amy and Ben needed musicians to fill the band. They decided to call on three old friends: drummer Rocky Gray, guitarist John LeCompte and bass player Will Boyd.
When Rocky and John came into the band, I think that the basic parameters of the music had been set. So, you know, Ben was sort of the main leading musical force in the band as it was in the beginning. And I think that probably in the beginning they sort of fell into line.
I was at a friend's house who John called when I was over there and was telling him, this was when he just got the news that Ben wanted him and Rocky to play in the band. He was telling us like all the details or whatever, how much they're getting paid, you know, stuff like that. And you know, I think John's like the nicest person I've ever met, pretty much. You know, he's just the most, you know, grateful person there is.
You know, the day that John got signed on, you know, he came in here and said, I just, you know, worked my last, you know, hour of my job, you know, and said he just got signed on with, you know, Evanescence, and they were about to go on tour. He's tickled pink.
John was quite the publicist. He wanted to make sure I got the CDs, I knew who they were, and he also had another hidden agenda. He had a 17-year-old brother that really wanted to be a writer.
John's been very involved in the music scene as long as I've known him. He's always got 20, 25 projects going at a time. You know, very talented individual. He can sing and plays guitar. I don't know if John plays drums or not. It wouldn't surprise me.
Zach and Bob, who work in Anthropop in Little Rock, played with Will Boyd in Lucky Father Brown.
In Lucky Father Brown, we were like serious about what we were doing as musicians, but we weren't. I mean, when you're talking about making it, making it in music, that's like, here it's like getting on MTV or whatever, and that's never our aspiration. It's like, we don't want to be an MTV band.
And
you have to sell out to do that.
Also, we weren't really trying to make it because we are an instrumental band playing weird instrumental music, so we weren't trying to make it. We were just trying to have a good time.
When he came and played with us, we'd switch around instruments and stuff, and so we got to hear him play bass and play guitar and hear different stuff, because that's just what we did when we practiced. I mean, Will, he's a great bass player. He's probably a better bass player than he is a drummer, but he's a good drummer, I'd say that too. They came here and did a show on New Year's. It was prior to their CD release, and we were playing a bunch of shows, Lucky Father Brown, and Will decided that, or they asked him to play bass with them that night, and he had played bass with them before at a few shows, so he was friends with them for a long time.
There couldn't be a better guy to get the position to play drums for Evanescence than Rocky, you know.
One of the most talented individuals musically that I've ever met. Can pretty much pick up anything and play it.
Rocky played in Living Sacrifice, which was, you know, the biggest, probably, metal band to ever come out of Arkansas.
In the studio, Rocky, you know, he's doing the drum check, and the guy was in there telling him to hit the drums, you know, telling Rocky, you know, hit the drums, hit the drums.
It was kind of weird to see Rocky with long hair, you know, his tattoo showing and playing, you know, this, you know, death metal music, and then going straight to, you know, a radio rock band.
The guy said, man, get him to play a little bit of one of your songs for us. I said, hey, Rocky, play a little bit of the song. And I mean, man, he started in, and the equalizers and all that stuff just said, blue.
With the full stable band in place, Wind Up sent Amy to performance school to fine-tune her stage presence.
Going to performance school for Amy especially has been a very important growing experience. I don't want to make it sound like that she was subpar or anything before that, you know, because she wasn't at all. She was great, but she's fabulous now.
You see her on stage now, she's very confident. She's, you know, she's controlling the crowd, she's controlling the band, she's absolutely in charge.
She puts everything into her performances, so much so that I think it puts a tremendous strain on her voice.
They had gotten Amy to where she was a consummate stage professional. They had filled out the band to where there was an actual drummer and an actual bass player, to where they didn't, you know, it was a band now.
It's very apparent that there's been a lot of coaching and input in terms of where the band's at.
That Wind Up put a lot of thought and, you know, preparation into the whole Evanescence push.
The first single to be released from the debut album, Fallen, was Bring Me to Life, which would also be the signature tune for the film Daredevil.
Well, what happened prior to Daredevil, and I would say if Daredevil was released in 2003, March, then in 2002, say around September or so, the radio station here picked up on Bring Me to Life and started playing it, and was getting a good response. Because it was my own daughter, I tried not to pay a whole lot of attention to it when it was on the radio. In fact, I'm the one in the family who has listened to the album the least, because I don't like to get burned out on things. I want to still like it.
While they were making the record, Ben gave me a call, and I was in South Carolina at the time doing another record, and he gave me a call and asked me what I thought of them adding a rapper to the band. And I said, on one song or on the whole record? And he said, oh, probably just one song. And I said, well, I think it would be interesting.
You just don't say, oh, we're going to put out our first record and we're going to sell 6 million units in 10 months and be the biggest rock act of the year. I mean, you can't plan those things. You could put a lot of money into marketing and try it, but 9 times out of 10 it's not going to happen. So when it does happen, it's always a little bit of surprise.
But because I'm in radio, I have access to Billboard and Radio and Records Magazine and BDS and all these different indicators where I can go in on the computer and over the internet, I can find out what stations are playing and who's adding it. And I got to watch something. Honey, look at this. And I print out, this thing's like coming in, this number 38. Look, it just debuted.
They went from, you know, nobody knowing them, including, you know, most of Little Rock not knowing them, just a few, you know, 100 or so loyal fans here in this town knowing them, to being on the cover of magazines and featured in Newsweek.
The next week, wow, look at this, it's up to 28 and it's got a bullet. Wow, and, you know, I'm tracking this thing, and when it starts getting up into the top 10 slot, we're thinking, this is really happening. So it was very exciting, and then of course when it hit number 1,
Bring Me to Life, it's just one of those songs that sticks with you, and you can hear it over and over again. It doesn't get old.
It was used on television shows. It was used during like the Kentucky Derby. It was used when Stone Cold Steve Austin was coming out to fight The Rock on pay-per-view. They played Bring Me to Life. It's like, God, this song's everywhere. It was happening so rapidly and so fast, and they were selling so many hand over fist that they were up to multi-platinum before anybody knew it. It was like, so Wind Up finally flew us up for a party in Manhattan, and at that party, they had to present them with their gold record. They presented them with $1 million on, well, there's some of these plaques back here, their first platinum record. They presented them with a multi-platinum record for $2 million. They presented them with a and these are all supposed to be separate parties, so we got ripped off, I think.
Wind Up's investment in Amy certainly paid off.
I've seen several performances since the record has come out, and I've been impressed with every one of them. You know, she really connects with the crowd, and that's something that's very hard for a young, you know, at the time when we first started working together, she was, you know, 17, 18 years old. It's very hard for any 17 or 18-year-old to really connect with an audience.
Their sudden rise to fame was certainly helped by having their debut single as the signature tune for the film Daredevil.
After a couple of years of being in development, they informed us that their song has been accepted in the movie Daredevil. Daredevil likes one of their songs. They're going to use it in Daredevil, Bring Me to Life.
I think it was a really smart move for the first single off the record to be on the movie soundtrack for Daredevil. I think it gave the band some immediate visibility and an impetus for a big video.
In the last 10 years, that is a part of marketing of a band these days, is to get a song on a popular movie. Now, Daredevil may not have been a very good movie, but it was big at the box office, which says something for America, doesn't it?
You've got a Ben Affleck-driven vehicle hitting all the theaters. You got the lead-off single that they're going to make a video for. It's a great song. It made a lot of sense that it did well.
But when the movie broke in March of 2003, we all went down to the theater, Ben's parents and us, and we were all invited. It was a big radio station thing, and we were like mini celebrities, and we had great seats, and it was exciting with the popcorn, and there was a big cardboard cutout of Daredevil and Ben Affleck, and they gave it to me, and it's up in the attic right now. Big event, and we went to see the movie, and when Amy's voice came on with Bring Me to Life, and then of course My Immortal that Ben wrote was included in the film too, so Evanescence was the only group to have two songs in that film. We were very excited. It was a very exciting night, probably at that point one of the best nights of our lives.
Although the band's national success was evident, there were still grumblings in the Little Rock music scene. This was not helped when Amy allegedly said that Little Rock was full of death heavy metal and Christian bands.
The first single and the success kind of took them to a national level. There was definitely a little bit of a backlash locally among musicians who felt like they hadn't paid their dues necessarily, or that they'd been in the right place at the right time.
I think Little Rock is so proud of Evanescence. I think you get a lot of grumblings from the musical community. Oh, you know, it's just pop. It's just, you know, why didn't they pick me? It's always, why did they pick me, you know? It's jealousy.